So lately, everybody's been talking about this interview with Putin by Tucker Carlson, right? Tucker Carlson acts like he was the only one to ever ask Putin. Journalists worldwide have been asking Putin. Now, in the comment section of these far right YouTube channels and other social media sites say, well, people are just mad because Tucker Carlson's a real journalist. You're just mad because you only interview people that you agree with. Unfortunately, that's what Putin did. That's why Putin let Tucker Carlson interview him, because he was the only one that agreed with him about everything. He also knew that Tucker Carlson was dumb enough just to throw softball questions, and y'all fell for it. So the things you say about everybody else actually applied to you the instant Tucker Carlson got the interview with Putin. What I find ironically too is that Putin said in the interview that Poland should have just gave Germany its land during World War II, its land back. That's what he said, its land back, right? So he uses that as a premise. That's why he's taking Ukraine. He's just doing the same thing. And what's really funny is he attacked Ukraine because he said there was this Nazi brigade there. So a couple hundred people in Ukraine that he didn't agree with, so he attacked Ukraine, killing civilians. They're doing all kinds of evil things to the woman there. They're killing children. They're kidnapping children, right? And for some reason, you guys think it's okay because there's a brigade there. So I asked a simple question online to these low IQ people. We have Nazis in America too. Should Russia attack there? All of a sudden, you guys will, but there's no brigades. There's no brigades. Even though Ku Klux Klan, if you read the history, by the way, which is larger than any brigade that you find in Europe that supports Nazis, they were actually companies and brigades. These were people from Civil War who lost their Civil War when Grant kicked their butts, right? So after Grant kicked their butts, they formed this and they started hating black people. And eventually, after World War II, they started praising Nazis. You see the rebel flag, or its orientation is straight to Nazis. Sometimes you see them both. Even worse, you see the Trump flag hung up next to these two. So if you're saying that Putin has the right to attack people, that means you don't agree with free speech. That means you don't agree with any of these rights that you always claim. You always claim these amendments, you have free speech, and blah, blah, blah this, and blah, blah, blah that. Even though the rebel flag was there in January 6 riots. See, you don't have no moral stance on this. You don't have no moral backbone on this after a while. So, for those of you who don't know too, Poland, right before World War II, Germany said that Poland, right at the start, a security guard opened fire at one of the German soldiers. That's what he started, with a lie. Well, Ukraine did the same thing. They started with a lie. And what's funny is when you write everything down on paper and you remove the names and you put these facts on, and you find out that Putin is more in line with Nazis trying to take over and start a war with Europe for somehow trying to claim defense. He just feels boxed in. There's a Nazi brigade there. But he's the one that just praised Nazis. He said Poland should just give it to him. Even though a lot of Russians lost their lives during World War II fighting Nazis, a lot of people forget their history too. They were actually aligned with Germany. Germany and Russia actually had a pact together until Adolf Hitler opened fire on them. Then all of a sudden they hated Nazis. They didn't hate Nazis before that point. Nowhere in any history books, any notes did you see the Russian government at that time say anything bad about Hitler and them until Hitler opened fire against the Russians. So there's softball questions, and these pro-Trump supporters that don't have a logical argument, they'll try to say, well, what kind of point are you trying to make? It's a simple point. If your point is that people are mad because Putin only let Tucker Carlson interviewed, and you think that people should and you're saying that the far left or even a left wing or any other kind of wing, central, don't give a right, only likes to interview people they agree with, then you already lost that argument from the get-go, because that's exactly what happened with Tucker Carlson. So you lose out on the logic with that. Putin loses out on the logic with the Nazisms. You lose out on the logic with free speech, even though I hate Nazis, but I'm not going to attack a neighbor over it, because then I'd just be just as guilty as him. So if the Russian army today starts a war just like Germany did in World War II, when they attacked Poland, they did the same thing. What's that make Russian army? Then some of you thinking that Russia's already winning all the time. They took a city, but they didn't kill any troops. They had to pull out. The Ukrainians did. Because the KKK in America, the far-right congressmen, they don't like aid going to, any kind of financial aid going to Ukraine. And other nations are falling short giving to Ukraine too, for that matter. Even though if Vladimir Putin had his way and he could take Ukraine fast as he could, he wouldn't stop there. He's a madman. They never just stop with one country. It's like the far right always claims about history books, and the far left wants to burn history books, which is wrong. You shouldn't. But you yourselves don't learn. You name one conqueror in history that stopped after one country. Did Japan stop after one country in World War II? Did World War I? Did anybody on the Germany, did they stop after one? World War II, the same thing. Nobody stops after one country. You go back to France with Napoleon. You go back to England. You go back to the Spanish. You guys are always claiming other people should read history books, but you yourselves ain't learning from history. Now the whole world's a mess. And the people that are supposed to promote democracy and claim they're Christians somehow support Putin, who's not a Christian, a fake Christian, but not a real one. In a previous video, I showed in the Bible where you guys were wrong about this. You get mad at me all you want, but I'm pointing out facts. That's the difference between reality and the superficial reality some of you are wanting to live in. So you can either grow up and understand or accept that, hey, yeah, I support Putin. I don't give a damn about rights. I don't give a damn about free speech. I support Putin freely. I'm an American. Well, if that's true, go to Russia. America needs to be for the free. America needs to be for people that want to work together and do good and do right. And if you agree with free speech, so if you have a neighbor, like I just said, is different than you, even far views, I'm not going to attack him just because of that. And I don't expect he should attack me either. That's what America's supposed to be. Everybody coming together working for a common goal. So if you like Putin so much, even if you're in the Congress, it don't matter where you are. If you like him so much, then get the hell out of America and go join the Russian army. Put money where your mouth is. Because Russian soldiers that go on the front line, they don't want to be there. They just had an Asian not too long ago, came from China, thought that Putin was the greatest. He joined the Russian army. Now he wants the Chinese embassy to take him back because he's sick. There's no medicine. There's no aid. There's no evacuations for people. Matter of fact, there was one video uploaded on a YouTube channel, Ukrainian. They were inside a tank and got blown. The guy's knees bleeding out, and he's asking for help. And all his people around him, like, they actually said in the video, what do you want me to do? They don't even know how to do first aid. These people ain't even being trained. And it's the Russian army that you support. It's really bad when you support Putin because, for one, you're supporting what's happening to the woman in Ukraine and the kids and the civilians. But the Russians that don't even want to be there, they're not even getting taken care of. But you want to point out to a video where Vladimir Putin takes his chair and he sits down and he talks to these soldiers. Look how much he cares about these soldiers. Even though there's a million videos that contradict that, you point to the one. Then you're like, oh, look at Biden. He's looking at his watch. And Biden shouldn't look at his watch. I'd be mad, just as mad about that. America does have a problem with supporting troops too. That doesn't mean I'm going to jump ship and run the Russian Vladimir Putin because he sat down in a chair and talked to one troop in a video, but ignored the 300,000 that are already dead, close to 400,000 now. So you far right, you guys don't have any legitimate arguments. The whole Tucker Carlson thing's a joke. Because if you truly believe that, oh, you only like to interview people you just agree with, then put money where your mouth is. Let Putin get interviewed by real journalists around the world that don't agree with him then. Stop contradicting yourselves. You're just as bad as the far left, as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, the whole interview was a joke. And Putin just made himself sound like an idiot, to be honest. He made him sound like more of a Nazi than the brigade that was actually doing nothing in Ukraine to begin with. So you know what? No, you guys don't have a leg to stand on. I'm sorry, if you support Putin, you are no longer a member of Christ. You no longer believe in Christ. You put Putin as the center of your flagpole. And that's what Trump is. That's what Trump wants to do. He wants to give Putin all the power, and so do the Republicans. Now, if the far left wanted to make a bill to support the Russian army, oh, you bet it already been passed and done and gone. Because that's who the Republican Party is now, the party of evil. The far left ain't far behind some of the stuff that they're doing. So I tell you what, some of you got a lot of growing up to do. But right now, you're not winning with facts. You're winning with ignorance. And you're trying to make that ignorance your whole entire world. Then some of you blatantly just said in YouTube channels, you don't care. You don't care. You're going to support Putin. You don't care what anybody says. You're going to support Trump. You don't care what anybody says. And that's the fundamental problem, is people just don't care anymore. And it's time maybe that we need to start separating ourselves from these people. Maybe they should move to Russia. Keep America free, people. But more importantly, man, learn from history, both sides. Because it doesn't seem like anybody is.